wearing one of the 3 green shirts I own today since I'm not filming in front of the green screen. It's the little things. Hey everyone, welcome back to the STEMulus. I'm Steph, and today we're doing an Ask Steph, which I don't think I've done on the channel for a couple of years. I don't think I've done one since I moved down to the Bay Area. So I figured, why not? For those of you that haven't seen an Ask Steph before, because you're new here, which is a lot of you, I haven't done one of these in a really long time, and the channel has grown quite a bit since then. I asked you guys to submit questions on Facebook, on Twitter, using the hashtag AskStephEvs, and now I'm going to answer a few of them. It's pretty self-explanatory. First question from Andrew Ward at Andy J. Ward on Twitter. Why do you think Venus gets so little love? Saturn and Jupiter get dedicated orbiters. Mars is a traffic jam. Venus, nada. Wouldn't think it would be any harder to get there. Are the conditions, pressure, temperature that difficult to design for? And the answer is no. And lots of people love Venus. It's just not the people that are dishing out the money. Every time there's a new batch of funding that comes down the tube, I see lots of planetary scientists and engineers that work on these concepts for Venus get really excited and then really bummed out when their missions don't get picked. I couldn't tell you why. I know a lot of people really think that Venus should get a mission. I can't tell you why Saturn and Jupiter get way more love. I don't know if it's the wow factor. I mean, the images from Jupiter and Saturn are absolutely beautiful, and I guess part of it maybe is engaging the public interest. I mean, they make for great photos, but I also I don't know. I don't know why Venus doesn't get more love, but I think it should. I agree with everybody. I think that all the planets should get love, but especially the ones that we've been neglecting, like Venus. The next question comes from John Wallace at John Wall, lots of numbers. If you could launch a CubeSat, what experiments would you fly? For me, I would actually probably donate that opportunity or ask for proposals from high school students. I know that sounds like really, oh, of course she donated, but there's a reason for that. When I was in college, a lot of you probably have already heard this story, but I worked on the Missouri S&T satellite design team, also known as MSAT. And in my final year there, we were getting ready for, I think it was our CDR, I want to say. I think I jumped off halfway through. And by jumped off, I mean graduated and went on to get a job. But we submitted basically a request for proposals from high schools across the state of Missouri to have a small payload that would be in one of our satellites. And the winning high school, I cannot remember what school that was. So if you're by chance one of the 2 or 3 students that we worked with, hey, I really wish we could have flown your experiment. What they wanted to do was they had a little tiny cube, and on the inside they had made random traces, copper traces. And what they planned on doing was assigning each line of the trace, I think, a musical note. And our satellites, a little bit of background, were called Mr. and Mrs. Sat, Missouri Raleigh Satellite, Missouri Raleigh Second Satellite. But their payload, they called it BabySat. And what it would do is once on orbit, it would release like a solder ball or a little BB or something that would bounce around inside the box. And every time it hit a trace, they would log that wherever it hit, it would log that, and each location corresponded to a musical note. And what they planned to do was write BabySat's lullaby this way. And I just thought that was really cool. It was really creative and really outside of the box. So I would love, if I had the opportunity to just say, hey, I have a CubeSat that has a launch, submit your proposals. That is one thing I would really love to do, because it was just something so cool to see so many really neat ideas like that. So that is something I would love to do if I had a CubeSat, is launch high school payloads and give kids, especially younger kids that wouldn't have necessarily the opportunity to launch, to get them that opportunity. Next question from Rob at Rob Cabrera. Hey Rob! For those of you that don't know, Rob is the super talented art Jedi that does all the awesome artwork on the channel. He's my co-producer. He taught me how to do green screen and everything. He's been my biggest supporter from the very beginning, aside from my family. So yeah, if you haven't, go check out Rob's Twitter. It's at Rob Cabrera. From that you'll be able to find all of his artwork, and at Creative Squirrels, his creative company. He's really talented. Go check him out, please. But anyway, Rob's question is, which current popular movie superhero is most scientifically plausible? And I hate this because somebody answered this. Apparently they thought that they were Steph, which they weren't, but they were right, is Black Widow. For me, Black Widow is probably the most feasible. She's got really cool gadgets. She's just a human that can do really awesome kicks and stuff. And while that makes her probably, not as pizzazzy or wowy as like Captain America or Iron Man. She's definitely the most scientifically plausible, which just because she's not really super sci-fi, I guess. I know that's a terrible answer. It's definitely not the Hulk. We'll leave it at that. Or, well, maybe Thor. Probably not Thor, but definitely not the Hulk. Next question comes from Thomas on Twitter. He wants to know, how old is the water coming from my household tap? I know this answer because I had to double check it. If there's anything I've learned from the STEMulus, it's whatever you think you've known for a really long time. Make sure that it hasn't changed or new discoveries haven't happened, because I've gotten burned, I think almost burned once or twice on the channel by not like double checking what I think I know. And what I found out was, I used to think, along with the rest of the scientific community, that Earth formed dry. The planet, when it initially formed, was just a dry planet. There was no water, and the water came later. When I Googled, there was an article from, I think, 2014 with Nat Geo that discussed how there was the latest finding that showed that water actually formed at the same time as the Earth. So water is the same age as the Earth. So there you go. The answer, the more you know. Next question comes from Devin at GDI? Is it Jedi? Is it a cool way to say Jedi? Anyway, Devin asks, what age did you realize you wanted to become a rocket scientist? So I told this story a couple times before, but I'll give it maybe a little bit more background just for this go, for the new people that maybe have like not heard the story, and for those of you that have, give it a little bit more flair than what you're used to. I had a lot of interests that varied as a kid. I loved being creative. I loved problem solving. I really liked science. I think when I was 4, I wanted to be an astronaut, doctor, nurse, artist, and like one of those things stuck. And then I went through a lot of different phases. I wanted to be an interior decorator at one point, and then a teacher. And then I think I was in middle school, and my dad was like, hey, you really like science. What do you think about being an engineer? And when he explained engineering to me, I was like, okay, that sounds really cool. That sounds like something I'd want to do. He was like, okay, well, what about like a chemical engineer or a mechanical engineer? And I'd kind of gone through those various engineering fields, and I just really hadn't found anything for me that just screamed, yes, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I'd always loved space, and that was always something that was kind of hanging in the back of my mind. So I was like, chemical engineer, that sounds cool, but I don't know if that's for me. And mechanical, I don't know, civil engineer. Ooh. And then I got to high school, and I was 15 years old, and I started dating this guy. Spoiler alert, it didn't work out, but it did lead me to my career path. And at the time, he wanted to go to the Air Force Academy and be an aerospace engineer. I don't actually think he wound up doing aerospace engineering, but he said aerospace engineering once in front of me, and I was like, hey, what's that? And he explained what an aerospace engineer did, and it was literally like the clouds opened, the heavens were singing, and it was my aha moment that this is definitely what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I mean, all of my life I'd been experimental, like I'd blown a breaker in the house when I was 10 years old, trying to figure out like which 2 wires to touch together. We hadn't put a light socket on yet, so I just knew you had to touch red and white, but I wanted to know what happens when you touch the other color combinations together. Spoiler alert, white and green blows the breaker in a fantastic fireworks show. But stuff like that. I was always tinkering, always wanting to like experiment on different things and understand different things and why they worked the way they worked. So when my boyfriend at the time talked about aerospace engineering, it was just like all the pieces fell in together. I was going to get to do everything with all of my interests, and it was just perfect. And that's when I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So long story made even longer somehow. All right, last question is a rapid fire round from Kevin Haley at KevyKev. He asked me a lot of questions, so we're just going to zing through some of these, and I'll save the last one that's going to be a little bit longer for the end. What do you think of the JAXA rover's accomplishment? I think it's freaking amazing, and the pictures are amazing, and it just gives me chills. So yes, go JAXA rovers. What's your read on the current state of crewed exploration? Any agency/company? I want crewed things to start happening on US soil. I'm excited to see SpaceX and Boeing and everybody starting to like, we're starting to like do the media push for the next generation of crewed astronauts that'll go up on American launch vehicles, and I'm very excited about that. I'm impatient. I'm ready to see the next round of like crewed vehicles leaving American soil. I cried so hard when solar missions were over, so I've been waiting, and I'm ready. It's happening. It's just not happening fast enough for me. The next question I'm gonna skip and save for last. I saw an article where a satellite caught a CubeSat in a net. thoughts. I've not seen that article, but it makes me think of the Pac-Man satellite that I covered, I think it was a couple of years on a Twistum, that basically had big booms and nets that would go and scoop up space junk. So if it's that thing, very cool. If it's not, still very cool, because space is awesome. Last question that I'm going to do today. Can you recap your upcoming events? Tweets in the Q&A. Okay, so my upcoming events. So basically, let's talk about everything that's going on right now with Steph and what's going to be going on in October and why things are going to be absolutely just busy as all get out. I'm going to be really stressed beyond beyond belief. So for me right now, I know I haven't been putting out a lot of videos lately. It's because right now I am involved in 4 different projects at work. One of them is the SkySats, which you guys are familiar with. One of them is a project that I can't get into specifics on, but basically I'm getting ready to lead the testing effort on that. That should start firing up sometime in October. The SkySats, we're also getting ready to launch our next group of them on a SpaceX Falcon 9, which I think is coming up in November. So that's all going to be happening in October as well. I have 2 proposals. One is due at the end of October and one is due at the beginning of November. One of them I am going to talk a little bit about. The other one I can't. The proposal that's coming up due in November is what's for something called the Power and Propulsion Element, aka PPE. It is for the Deep Space Gateway that is going to hang out around the moon. I'm going to talk about this now. This is something I've been working on for a while, but I didn't want to talk about it a whole lot. I wasn't sure how public it was being made, but there was just a huge article in Space News about how SSL is pursuing this, complete with like a concept drawing. I will actually link to that in the description down below, but that is one of the proposals I'm working on. It is so cool, and I'm so excited to be working on it. Anytime you work on a proposal, it's always just crunch time. And then there's another proposal that I'm working on that's due at the end of October that I know I can't talk about. But basically 4 different projects, and they're all coming due in like early November, late October. So that is just busyness on one side. So next weekend I'm going wedding dress shopping. That is going to take an entire weekend. My family, some of my family members are coming out, and that's exciting, but that's basically my first weekend in October is gone. My last weekend in October is gone because I'm going to Geek Girl Con in Seattle. For those of you that don't know, Geek Girl Con is my favorite convention that I go to every year with the STEMulus. It is a very inclusive space that celebrates young women. It's also, while it focuses on young women, it's just an inclusive space for everybody. And I love the focus on women in STEM there, so I go back with STEMulus every year. And I'm going back again this year. It's October 27th and 28th in Seattle. So if you're in the area and you haven't gotten tickets yet and you want to come see me and say hi, I will include a link in the description down below. So please check that out. And then I just got another project that I'm not going to talk about yet, but yeah, basically I have to maybe travel to film something in the middle of October. So October is gonna be so busy. I'm already stressing just thinking about it. So I'm gonna try and keep up with the videos in October. I'm writing like crazy to try and get some stuff filmed in advance. If it doesn't happen, please be patient. Everything, if I can just make it till mid-November, I should be able to get my life back on track a little bit. We're finally starting to shift back to the 980 schedule at work, but due to the fact that I just have so much going on, there's not a lot of reprieve there. I'm really trying to close out my work on the SkySat program and just like jump off of that ship so I can focus on the other 3. And in the middle of that, at some point, my building is changing to a different building, so we're gonna have to move our offices, and it's just a lot right now. But that is basically what's going on with me. Other events, I guess there's nothing really big. The next big one that's on the calendar right now won't be until August of next year, and that's when I'm going to Silicon Valley Comic Con here in San Jose. I'm very excited about that one, so keep an eye out for more details. Watch this space and the other social media. And other than that, yeah, STEM Book Club, I guess, would be the only other thing that you guys need to keep an eye out for. I am working through the Song of the Dodo. It is so good, and I'm enjoying it so much, but it's taking me so long to read because I'm taking notes. I think I'm like at 41% of the way through, but I had to set it down for a while because I was just getting so busy. I didn't really do well with any of my reading. So I'm getting back to that. So keep an eye out for that in the next month or 2. We'll do our STEM Book Club live stream. So I guess that's it. It's a lot. It took a lot to talk about it, but it's just because it is a lot. But with that, yeah, I think that's it, guys. I really appreciate you sending in your questions for me to answer. I might do some of these in the future. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see me do some of these in the future. Start working these back into the regular lineup. I enjoy doing them. I enjoy talking to you guys about various things, whether it's personal or professional or just random sciencey stuff. I really enjoy it. But if you like it too, like I said, leave me a question in the comments down below. Let me know if you like it. Give the video a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content STEM related or just me being a weirdo, please feel free to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on any of my future videos, which will hopefully get back to being regular soon. Ha! Make sure you check out the links I mentioned. They'll be in the description down below, along with links to all of my social media and my Patreon page. So feel free to check all of that out in your free time. But with that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay well, stay awesome, and I will see you next time, which will hopefully be soon. Ah!